Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi everybody, I'm Craig Clove and I'm an alcoholic. Things shaped like this frighten me sometimes. As Bill had said, I am from actually Henderson, Nevada, which is a small suburb of, actually it's not small, it's bigger than Vegas is. It's in and I was born and raised there. And my original sobriety date was August 9th, 1958. I had a little slip along the way, so now my sobriety date is September 28th, 1985, and I'm really glad of that. My sponsor's name is Russ Smith. He has a sponsor, Eddie K. He has a sponsor, Dick T. He has a sponsor, Ted D. And between those guys, they got about 400 or 500 years. Dick and Ted are both nearing 50, and I've known those guys, and they've been active in my life my entire sobriety. Russ hasn't always been my sponsor. I got him about a year ago, and you know, it's like the old deal, you know, hey Russ, will you be my sponsor? I've been really kind of having a hard time. I need to have a sponsor because I believe in that. I just believe it. I can't sponsor guys and have them. Well, listen, here you got to, you know, you just got to have a sponsor. And well, who's your sponsor, Craig? Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain over there. Just, you know, and the deal is that I just believe in that. Welcome to the people that are new or newer. I'm glad you're here. Maybe there's somebody here like me tonight who's not drank in a long time, one long day at a time for a long time. And is in that delusion that they're in the middle of AA because they're going to a lot of meetings. And last night, it was such a treat to hear Paul and the things that he talked about, you know, not being around AA, but being in AA. And for a long time, I was around AA. In fact, the deal was with me, 1985 was kind of a tough year. Driven to homelessness in the town that I grew up in. I had my best friends were saying things to me like, listen, Craig, my parents are going to be home this afternoon, and I don't want you to be here when they come home. I don't want them to see you like this. My family, I had a bunch of brothers and things there in the town, and they just, you know what, no, just go away. You can't be. You come around here and I'm calling the police. And that's what I had gotten myself to. And summer of '85 was pretty tough. I had always kind of lived in the delusion that I really want my wife and kids, but I'd abandoned them. I walked away on the 4th of July, 1985. I just went to Vegas from a little town. I took a trip. Don't ever not take a trip. I took a trip and went to southern Utah for a few years because those folks could straighten me out, and I was sure they could. And they probably could have, but I could never make the connection with them. I don't have any bones to pick with religion at all. I think it's wonderful. See, the problem is for me, I've got 4 brothers, 2 younger and 2 older, and they're all just fine. We were raised in the same house by the same parents. I'm almost ashamed to say this in some AA meetings, but I had a very good childhood, and I was raised by very loving, kind parents. If I could have been an only child, maybe I could have said, Mom and Dad put me on the pot backwards, that's why I'm a nitwit. But that isn't it. You know, the odds are 4-1. I got 4 successful brothers, and then there's me right in the middle. Hi. Yeah, well, that's Craig. He's Just Craig, that's it. He's our middle child. We can say a lot about Daryl and Terrell and Kevin and Kelly, but that's Craig. And right now he's napping. And, what the hell? So when I got by the time this late summer of 1985 is kind of wearing on, and when I'd left that wife and those little babies in southern Utah, I was only going to be gone for a minute. And you know how that works out. And, and nobody really, she knew where I was, and she knew what I was doing, but she wouldn't tell anybody. And because of the shame that goes along with this alcoholic illness, because of the shame, so I show up in this detox down there, and it was by accident. My brother, finally, I had showed up at his front door and said, "Oh man, I am in trouble and I need some help." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what you're going to do." Actually, I'd broken into his house and they weren't there, and he told me, "Go to my house. Do you know how to get in?" And I said, "I'll figure it out." And it was before caller ID and all that. Now it'd be tough. I know where you are. You're on my home phone. Get the hell out of there. Anyway, I was kind of ransacking the house, seeing if there was something in there, if I could get it and get enough money and get a stake and get going again. And before I knew it, I ended up with one of his guns in my mouth, and I was fixing to pull the trigger, and then the phone, and just this whole scene goes on. And a long story short, he comes home the next afternoon, him and his wife and the kids, and I'm just there, and I'm flying apart. And Tina's gone, the love of my life is gone, my kids are gone. Well, where'd they go? Well, actually, they're still where they were, I think. I don't know, I left them there. But isn't it funny how perception is? It looked to me like they left, or they I don't know what happened. And so I'm explaining all this to him, and he said, well, and he's very kind of just stern about it. He said, "I'll tell you what, you're going to get me one time. One time. That's how many opportunities you get with me." I don't know how he knew, but he did. And I got him. But before I got him, he kind of got me. He showed up, and we were going to work a couple of days, and I thought, good, I need to be employed. And I wasn't making enough money in southern Utah and blah, blah, blah. And I wasn't really working. I was just kind of hanging out with him. And on Tuesday, he said, "We're going to go see some people." Yeah, okay, we'll go see some people. And we get over to this place. What kind of people are we going to see? And he said, "Well, there's some people that might be able to help you." Apparently, he'd done a little investigating. He's a bit of an Al-Anon. Anyway, he'd done a little of investigating, and actually, he's pretty bright. Because I only got him once. I got the others a lot. I got him once. But I still like to tell him, "But I got you." Anyway, but I've made amends for that. Anyway, we're driving over across town, and we pull up at this place. And I'd heard advertisements about this place on TV, and I never had any dream in the world that I'd end up there. And it's got these big wood double doors in the back, and you're walking in, and he's kind of telling me about it. He said, "Well, now these are some counselors, and they're familiar with your kind of a problem." Problem? I got issues, but good Lord, when did they become problems? Anyway, as those big double doors like that are about ready to clank shut, he stops, and I still walk in, and he says, "Now they may want to keep you for a while." Clank. And I thought, oh, this is a bad time to find this out. Anyway, I go in there, and I'm there 8 days. I'm in there 8 days. In the meantime, my youngest brother had gone off to San Francisco, and the whole family had gone to get married and all that. I was there 8 days. And the guy's telling me as I'm getting out of there, I don't know what happened there. It was group, I know that. There was like, we'd sit around and kind of almost, you knew what was wrong with everybody there. But I remember the one night we were there. I remember 2 nights there, very just out in my mind. One was an afternoon, And there's all of us in this hall, and they're meeting, and I don't even remember what they called it, but there was people talking about what their problem is and everything. And every time somebody said something, I had a comment to say at the end of what they said. And I remember this gal, Karen, was talking about how bad she felt about abandoning her daughter and going out on her drunken, drug-induced runs. And she said, I felt so terrible. And of course, I got to top that. Oh, you abandoned one. I abandoned three. And, you know, and this little gal from across the room, I do not remember her name. Let's call her bitch for now. Anyway, she stood up and said, what's wrong with you? And she's just glaring in my direction. Who is she talking to? You know? Yeah, what's wrong with you? Why are you here? Why are you here, she said. And I started to feel kind of embarrassed for her. I thought, boy, these people are going to rip you apart when you get done with this, Missy, if you're talking to me. And, she just went on and on about, why are you here? You seem to know everything about what everybody else needs to do. Why in the hell are you here? Do you even have a problem? And I thought, I feel embarrassed for you, young lady. And she sat down, and they gave her a standing ovation. And that was one moment I remembered, and I thought, what's wrong with me? It bothered me. It bothered me. And the other one was this guy named Joey, known today as Vomit on the Group Joey. But Joey, he was a guy that stood up at the podium. It must have been Saturday night. And he was all suited up, and he looked good, and he was talking about being in one of the bands on the Strip, and I was just, oh my God, I would die to be like him. That's just so great. And now I almost want to wear gloves to shake his hand. And that's not a judgmental thing. That's just what alcoholism will do. That's what the disease of alcoholism will do. He hasn't drank in a long time. But not drinking doesn't seem to answer what's wrong with me. You know what happens to me is I end up in these positions where people say, you know, Craig, if you just didn't drink and do that other stuff, you'd be okay. And I become convinced you're right. It's my problem. That is my problem. Well, when you're 6 or 7 days sober, now what's the problem, Craig? Now what's the problem? You know what the problem is now? I just need just a little bit to take the edge off of this because I can't face life successfully. I don't know how to communicate this, but I'm irritable, restless, and discontented. The best description I've ever heard of what's wrong with me is on page 52 in the middle of the page in our book, that thing they call the bedevilments, where it says we were having trouble with personal relationships. Yeah, you could probably say that. That includes mom and, well, there is no more boss because I've become unemployable, and her and, you know, them and all that. We're a prey to misery and depression. There was a feeling of uselessness. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Yeah, you want to know why I drink, Mom? That's why I drink, because that's what happens to me when I stop. But I was never able to communicate that effectively because there was always so much evidence stacked against me and I wasn't a big criminal. I want to be a badass, but I'm not. There's women, and I'm scared of Tammy tomorrow. She's going to have a better man story than I do. And look at her, she's a pretty little thing. And that's tough on a guy that's 6'2" and 315 pounds. Paul was talking about being short and ineffective. Good Lord, look at me, and I'm ineffective. Anyway, I run from fights with guys his size. Anyway, this business about being, in, I don't know what that means. I don't know what you want from me. What do you mean in alcoholics? You've got to be in the center of AA. Okay, so I'm going to sit in the middle of the room. I'm in, 20 meetings a week, and I'm in AA. I'm not in AA. I'm just around. I don't have a sponsor. Well, I do, yes, the rules of Samaritan House are you must have a sponsor. I have one. What's his name? Bob D. That's my sponsor. Oh, that's a good sponsor. Yes, he is. Did you call him today? I left a message. That's as good as it gets. No, I didn't call him. No, I didn't call. I'm not going to call him. I think this is a stupid little thing. So, I do the 8 days in that detox. I haven't hit Samaritan House yet, but we're going to. And the next 4 or 5 weeks were hell. I got out of there on the 16th of August. And the guy said to me, take it easy, man. And you want to get and start. The guy, Mel, called me and wanted me to go to a meeting like 2 days later. I thought, my God, we were just in detox for 8 days. I don't want to over-recover. I mean, let's be careful here. I almost think I have in this detox. And, the day after I got out, I drank. The day after I got out, I drank. Wow. Wow, how did that happen? And the gal I'm trying to convince it'd be a good idea to connect with me again said to me, I thought you quit after I drank. She said, I thought you quit. And you know what the real feeling? I was agitated and whatnot, wanted to say some things to her about why didn't you say that 5 minutes ago, and I would still be quit, and it's your fault or whatever. But I just remember the feeling of, wow, so did I. So did I. I mean, after all this, after losing you and losing the kids, and I'm unemployable, and now everybody knows, the whole family knows what's wrong with me. And and I've been exposed, and oh my God, you would think that I would, and I've been in detox for 8 days. You would think I could make 1 day. So when I hear people getting 30 days, ladies, I think that is really supremely impressive. And I mean that from my heart. I know how hard it is to get 30 days. It was so hard to get 30 days, I took a chip when I had about 2 weeks, just because this guy, Eddie, I was in a hurry, so I thought, whatever. And man, I need to start feeling even. So, I get out of this detox and I drink, and the next 4 or 5 weeks are just pitiful and pathetic, and it's worse. It's worse. And I'm more demoralized, and I'm more beaten down, and I'm more homeless, and I have less opportunity. And I think to myself, I can't go to my brother's house. You know what's worse? It's just hearing about it. God, just stop. You say, I know. Oh, I know I shouldn't be an idiot. I know I shouldn't be homeless. I know I shouldn't be divorced. I know this. I know I shouldn't drink. I know I shouldn't use. But you know what I know really means? I know really means, shut up. Shut up. Stop talking to me. I don't want to hear it. The painful thing about coming here to see you is listening. And I know I deserve it. I know I deserve it. And so I end up back down there, and a long story short, he says to me, his wife wouldn't let me in the house. She said, he's not home, but you can wait in the garage. And so I go in the garage, and I'm laying there on the floor. And, oh, God. There was a guy, legend has it, this house that he bought, there was a guy when we were little kids there, that there was a grease pit in this garage. It was covered with, 2x8s or whatever. But there was apparently the uncle hung himself in this house. And I always wondered, I wonder why the hell that guy did that. And I'll tell you, I was laying just inches from where that guy committed suicide, and I thought, I understand. I wish I had the courage to do something like that. I wonder what it'd be like for him if he came home and saw me hanging in his garage. It couldn't be any more painful for him, as it turns out, than seeing me laying on the floor dying. You know what the problem was with me, for my family? I kept getting up. I kept getting my mom's hopes up, and I got my kids' hopes up, and her hopes up, and Dad and my brothers, and oh, he's doing good now. Hold your breath. That's a painful way for them to live, and that's the way our families live, watching us. It says that an alcoholic in his cups is an unlovely creature. Yeah, you could say that. And anyway, he says to me, I told him, I said, you know what, Daryl, if you'll just let me, I'll do anything you say. I don't know what to do. He looked down at me. He's a big boy. He looked down at me, And he said, "You're really putting me in an emotional bind." I thought to myself, "You're in an emotional bind? Oh my goodness, you need to see what it looks like from this side, pal." And I understand what he was saying today, because I got some kids myself. Anyway, he said, I said, "I'll do anything." He said, "Well, what I think you need to do is call that treatment center and go back there." And I thought, well, I'll do almost anything. Let's just but it was too late. And he said, "Well, here's the phone." He's got a phone there in the garage. I said, "Yeah, okay, well, I'm going to call him." And he said, "There's the number." And he just stood there, gawking at me. And I'm like, well, I'm going to get up and call him, just go back in the house or something. It's embarrassing. He said, "You'll call him while I'm standing here, or you can leave." Oh, so I got to call him, and it's my other brother, Daryl, the counselor, on the phone. And hey, this is Craig. You remember me 6-7 weeks ago? Yeah, what happened to you? "Well, your thing didn't work. I need to come back for a little more." And he said, "Yeah, come on in. And I went in, and my brother would give me some. I remember him telling me, "Here's $20. He said, "Don't squander this, Craig. Don't go squander this. Use this and get yourself straightened out." I'm thinking my problem's a little deeper than $20, but I was thinking like a $2,000 loan would fix a lot of stuff. Anyway, I ended up back in this treatment center, and a pathetic, boring story short, they didn't give me my room back. They made me sleep in the detox room on the mats. And I'm in that room, and I don't know what happened. I guess I'd nodded off a little bit, and I'm naive. I'm not but anyway, I hear this noise behind me. And I start thinking, oh, no. I've heard about institutions and what happens in them. And they're doing it behind me is what they're doing. And oh my God, I'm just thinking, I'm just laying on my side waiting. And then pretty soon I feel this warm, wet stuff on my shirt and coming down my back. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is not happening. And as it turns out, the guy behind me is having a seizure. And he's gotten sick, and he's in bad shape. And I kind of, help, and they come in, and the ambulance come and whatever, and I don't know whatever happened to that guy or who he was. I remember sitting there thinking, I was going to Samaritan House in the morning, and he's vomited on my damn only shirt. And, and that's all I could remember thinking about is me. And the next morning I get over in front of Samaritan House, and Samaritan House has got a nice ring to it. Samaritan House. It's a hell of a lot better than detox. Detox doesn't, it's terrible, but Samaritan House. And I stood in front of that place and thought, whew, it sounds better than it looks. And there was a bunch of old coots running in and out of there, dirty old scumbags and going on. I couldn't bear to go in there. I thought, I can't go in there. So I drifted across the street. There was a park there then, and leaned up against one of the elm trees and apparently took a nap, because when the sprinklers come on, I kind of come to, and I'm rattled, and I'm running off the lawn, and I squished over in front of Samaritan House that next morning, and I looked up at that, and that sidewalk looked like it was from here to Hades, and I can't go in there, and I wandered up to the door, and I tell this guy, I knock on the door, and the guy answered he looked huge then, he's just a little guy, but he swung that door open, and he looked at me, and he said, "What's your problem, kid?" And I said, I meant to say I need a $2,000 loan and a towel, but what came out was I can't quit drinking and I need some help. And he said to me, "You can stay on the couch." And I was kind of offended that he would let me stay on the couch. I thought, but I'm whatever, man. I'm at my end. And I'll tell you, if you'd have stopped me in September of 1985 as I'm coming up that walkway, that was probably the 25th. That was my sobriety date for a long time. You'd have asked me, "How you doing, Craig?" I'd have told you, this is the worst damn day of my life. I cannot imagine a worse day than this. Look where I'm going. Look at this. This is crap. This is terrible. But you ask me about it now, that's the greatest day of my life. That's the day my life changed. That's the day that I was willing to start asking other people for help. And beyond that, I've always asked other people for help, but I had a list of what the help looked like. This is the day that I asked for help, and I got no idea what that means. And sleeping on the couch was part of the help. And I slept on the couch. And he said to me, there's some rules in this house. You have one damn drink and you're gone. And you got 10 days to get a job. I thought, my God, when am I going to recover? I was there 8 days and it didn't work. 10 days here ain't going to do squat for me. Anyway, so that was probably a Wednesday, and on Thursday I didn't do much. But on Friday I got out the door and went over and saw some old friends and some people I used to work with, and they told me about a friend I'd known all my life named Glenn McCula. And Glenn and Betty were wonderful people. They weren't alcoholics, they were just normal drinkers. They were impunity drinkers. They'd have 2 beers and say, well, I feel that, I don't want to ruin dinner, let's quit. And anyway, I get over there, rehabilitated Glenn and taught him how to refinish furniture. And it's about 10 o'clock and I show up over there and, it's just pitiful. I don't really want to go there, but I don't know what else to do. And so I show up at Glenn's shop, and he's all excited to see me. I ain't seen him in a long time. And as I said, he'd worked with my family and since I was just a little kid anyway. Glenn takes me in the back and he shows me the furniture, and there's some oak chairs and whatnot. There's all kinds of stuff in there. And we're going to start, stripping these and refinishing. Oh, good. And there's this little blonde girl back there. Okay, things are looking up. Because you know what it's like. I'm dying of alcoholism, but I am needing some dating activity. Anyway, I get in the back there, and this little young, cute gal, and I'm an idiot. I'm wearing my wardrobe. I'm driving my house, what's left of it. And, it's just bad. It's just bad. And the house is almost out of gas. And or I wouldn't be here. If I had a tank of gas, I'd be out cruising, thinking of something better to do. But now that I'm here and I'm in this room and I see this little gal, I think, oh my God, this is great. So I'm going to try to make small talk with her. And it's tedious. It's terrible. She asked me a question that stunned me. She said, would you like a wine cooler? Everything goes to slow motion. I think to myself, there'll be no drinking. You have one drink and you're out of here. God, I don't want to lose my place to live. It's my second home, Samaritan House. My first home is out in the parking lot. This is to be a bad deal. Jesus, what do I tell her? And I don't want to say no and be rude, but if I say no, she's going to say something like, oh, why, don't you drink? Oh, well, no, I don't drink anymore. I'm in recovery. Oh, really, Craig? How long have you been in recovery? Today, this morning, 15 minutes, I guess. And so yes, I would like a wine cooler. And I just, oh my God, it's pathetic. And I have this, and I finally tell Glenn, look, man, this ain't exact. I could see I was going nowhere with her. So all of a sudden the job ain't exactly working out. I just, need to get the heck out of here. And he gave me $20. And he said, good luck, man. I know you're a little down on your luck. I hope, wish the best for you. And I went and got me a pack of cigarettes and a couple of Big Macs and a little bit of gas, and we're in not so bad shape anymore. And I roll back to the Samaritan House. You have one drink, you're out of here. Damn, what do I do with that information? Well, don't tell anybody, and it'll be sort of like you didn't have it, right? Your sobriety date is still the 25th. Yes, it is. And it was for a long time until I was just about ready to have a big party at my house for my 20th sobriety date. And at the time, my sponsor, Bob D., and I were in California, and he was telling me, well, I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to be there for your birthday and this and that and the other. And I'm like, yeah, it'd be cool if my sponsor could be there and give me my cake and all that stuff. And he said, I got listening to you tonight down there. He said, seems to me like I remember your sobriety date was like the day you moved in Samaritan House. That was like the 25th, right? I said, yeah, I'm starting to get irritated. He said, but you had a wine cooler after you moved into the Samaritan House, right? Yeah, what about it? He said, well, I want to understand this. Your sobriety date's the 25th, but that is, your last drink is on like the 27th. How does that work out? Ralph Cramden has been one of my heroes my whole life. You remember when Alice would have Ralph at the table and she'd be asking him questions and he just, I was there, I swear to God. I said, why are we having this discussion now? He said, I don't know, you tell me. I said, damn it, Bob, it's been almost 20 years. Why did we wait 20 years to have this discussion? He said, I don't know, you tell me. Why did you wait 20 years to have this discussion? And when Paul was talking about his discussion with his sponsor it reminded me of that. And I bristled, but we changed the date. And so now my new sobriety date is September 28th, 1985. I had a cup at Samaritan House that said, because I was on the board there, it said, Craig Clove, 9/25/85, entirely honest. And I drink coffee out of that cup on the weekends in the morning meetings down there. Yes, this is Craig. He's entirely honest. Well, pretty close. And so I got a new one now. It's September 9/28/85, entirely honest now. And that's what it says. And they think that's just cute. And they won't let me smash the old one. It's a reminder, Craig. Is there anything else you forgot to tell us? And so that's kind of my beginning in Alcoholics Anonymous. Now I start going to AA meetings and I'm doing this, and I got to tell you, I fell in love with the fellowship, with what I saw you guys having right away. I'm not the action part and the God part. I don't want the God part. Leave me out of the God part. I don't like the God part. But I'm just going to do the regular AA meetings. And I didn't have a clue. And so I'm going to all these meetings and whatnot. I'm really getting connected with the fellowship. And you know what, the early questions you ask. How long do I got to go to meetings? Oh, you got to go till you want to go. Wow, that's going to be a long time. You know, but it wasn't. It wasn't very long at all that I really started liking going to meetings. There were some meetings that were kind of fun. There were people in there that were kind of goofy and kind of funny. And you know what I saw people having? They were there. You know, there were guys and gals that were hooking up, and I mean, there was these 3 guys in particular that just, man, you could hear them laughing from outside the meeting hall, and they were always together, and they were connected, and it was like they'd been to high school and college together. There was just a connectedness among them. Oh my God, and you ask the question, Craig, do you want what we have? I'm dying to have what you have. And in our book, and when they read that chapter 5, it says that if you've decided you want what we have, oh yes, very much I want what you have. I want that. You guys are there. That's where you are. I can see it. That's when alcohol was and drugs were so magical for me, is they got me there. Where is there? Well, there is not here. That's what I can tell you, and I don't like here. There's also something in chapter 5 that scares me. It says there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Now? Oh, I wasn't ready for now. I got to get ready for this. That's like a pop quiz or something. I don't do well on those kind of things. I need to, now? Not now. No, not now. But those guys were there. And I have always wanted to be there. And that's the thing, even in sobriety, even when I don't try to manage my life because I think I'm a great manager, but I see things, and as Paul had alluded to the God hole last night, I have that hole. I have that God hole, but it doesn't look like a God hole to me. It looks like her an awful lot. It's just got that shape. And that, if I had her and I could stick her in, I'd be there. And then you get her and you realize she quits doing her job. I didn't know that, but she does. And her job is to make me feel more wonderful tomorrow than you did today. That's a task. And, you know, the shine starts wearing off. And then I realize I've sold myself short. I look at that little image where I've stuffed her in there, and she filled the hole initially. But then you see that little outer ring of dissatisfaction right around her silhouette. And they think, I'll be damned, what is that? Oh, Craig, that could be the God. It ain't the God hole. Don't be stupid. It isn't the God hole. Well, you thought it was the her hole, and that didn't seem to fix it. Yeah, but I know what it was. I undersold myself. I thought it was just me and her would be just wonderful and ride off into the sunset together, but I realize now we need something to ride in. If I had that new Bronco over there, oh my God, the hole is taking a new shape. It looks like a Ford Bronco, so let's get that. And we shove that in there. And there's me and her in the Bronco driving down the road. We're going there, man. We're going there. That's where we're going. And you drive and drive and drive, and pretty soon you're out of gas, and you just got nothing but payments, and you realize, damn it, I've undersold myself again. It wasn't her in a Bronco. We need a place to park the Bronco now, and her, a house for her to live in. So we'll get that house and we'll stuff that in there, and we get that, and there's still that little dissatisfaction. And then if you get the job and we make more money, and then if we get these dogs and we get all the kids back, and oh my God, but I still got this little outer ring of dissatisfaction, and I'm treating alcoholism, a spiritual illness, with material things, which are completely not effective in my experience. Absolutely not effective. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. I think everybody should be happily married and have nice homes and kids and cars and dogs and cats and birds and airplanes and what. I think it's all wonderful. But it is just absolutely not worth snot when it comes to treating a spiritual illness. And I didn't know that. And I'm looking around, and I'm sitting in meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I think I'm in the center of AA, and I got my shield. You know what my shield is? You know when somebody says, well, Craig, do you have a sponsor? No, I don't have time for a sponsor, damn it. Look, I'm on the Roundup committee. I'm on the Gratitude Ball committee. I'm on this. I'm on the Samaritan House board. I do this. I'm secretary of that meeting. You know how many hours a week I work, and on and on and on. And I got this little thing, and it's called a shield. I don't know that. But it keeps people away from me. How you doing? Oh, how am I doing? Look how many hours a week I'm working. Look at my house. Look how many. You know what my car costs? You know, on and on. I got my shield. Somebody said to me one day, you know what's nice about having a shield, Craig? When you're dead, you can just pull it right down and it'll become a headstone. And I'm offended. But that was true. That's very true. And I think we're like that. I got all this stuff that I think is I don't want to have a spiritual malady. I don't like spiritual malady. I don't like God. Actually, it's not that I don't like God. God doesn't like me. Really, Craig? Yeah, he doesn't like me. How come? Well, I just seem to piss him off. Really? The power of the universe is pissed off at you. You who lives in Samaritan House. God is mad at you. That's ridiculous. But it's true. Well, what did you do to piss God off? I failed. Really? You failed. What'd you fail at? Well, I never played football. Well, did you ever try? No. Why? I didn't want to fail. So you didn't fail. Well, that's not really the reason. Why is it? Why is God mad at you, Craig? Do you think God loves us? Yeah. Do you think we're God's kids? Yeah. All of us? Yeah. There's some of you that it's annoying to say that, but you know, and that was my whole take on it. And they started asking me, well, Craig, you got a bunch of kids, right? Yeah. Well, which one do you love the most? It's all the same. Oh, come on, Craig, don't be an idiot. You don't love them all the same. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Oh, that's ridiculous. Well, what about you're always with your daughters. You're close to your daughters. Well, my daughters are just active in my life. It doesn't make me love them more than I love my boys. My boys are out doing their thing, having fun. I leave them alone. Really? Where'd you learn to do that, Craig? It's the way that it is. You ever think that maybe God's that way with us? Do you ever think maybe God doesn't love one more than the other, but maybe he loves us all the same? And you want to pick and choose? See, what we believe here, Craig, and we believe that it's your own conception of God that's going to set you free. So we can't tell you what God is, but we can ask you some questions. We can ask you some questions that people asked us that were valid. And those kind of questions bothered me. It wasn't like I found No, they bothered me. It was an annoying thing. I tried to avoid the issue completely. Anyway, I get all connected in these meetings, and I'm having quite the life. And I've taken some actions that are causing some problems, but I didn't take these steps. And when you ask me, are you in the middle of AA? I would say, yes, I'm in the middle of AA. But the truth is, I'm not even really in AA. You know, just because I can put on a suit and dress like a sailor doesn't make me in the Navy. You know what I mean? But I'm like one of those guys that's just dressed up in a sailor suit and, oh, you in the Navy? No, I'm offended that you would ask. And so I'm in AA meetings, and I'm showing up, and I'm pontificating, and I'm running all kinds of nonsense. I don't have I do have a sponsor. That's not true. I did have a sponsor, and I loved him to death. His name was John Patrick McNally, and the wino, Pillhead we used to call him, and that's what he would introduce himself as. And he was sober a long time, and he gave me a lot of gifts that, unfortunately, he had died and gone on before I started to get the gifts. And one of them that he used to say that used to really bother me, if you don't have a program behind your own door, you ain't got a program. Well, let's not talk about that. And in the meantime, I had run into this little gal, and unfortunately, she was still married at the time, but we started our little affair. Actually, it was kind of inconvenient because she was married to my sponsor at the time, and it was just not a good deal. Not Wino, but the other guy, and which is kind of why I made the move to Wino eventually. And you know what the truth is? I was very ashamed of that. That's not a funny thing. I used to say that in humor, but I was very ashamed. I still am. That hasn't completely healed, and Bob and I have talked a lot and done a lot of things and been on trips and cruises and things together, but there's still, from my side, there's still some stuff left there. Anyway, and I'm in this whole mess, and in this marriage, and it was quite a little shock. I mean, this guy was Mr. AA in Vegas, and a real popular cat, and there was nowhere I could go. There were people at work that were bringing it up to me. People that oh my God, he owned some liquor stores down there, and I mean everybody knew him, it seemed like. And we're in this apartment, and there's people hiding in the bushes, and there's notes written in dust on my truck windows, we're watching you, it's just a matter of time. It just all kinds of nonsense. It was horrible. It was horrible to live through that. That's a self-inflicted wound. You know, it says in our book, when we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis we couldn't postpone or evade, we had to fearlessly face the fact that God is either everything or he is nothing. Which way is it going to be with you? I always remember Clint Hodges talking about, well, God isn't all he's cracked up to be, but I don't think he's nothing. And that's really been my take on it for a long time. I'll tell you that, I'll gladly tell you now, that has changed beyond anything I could have imagined that I would ever. I absolutely count on this power to just take care of it. Greg and I had a nice conversation here earlier, and it was regarding that. God is really big. Really big. He doesn't know any limitations. He has none. And time isn't a factor with him. Anyway, apparently, at least the God I understand. I don't want to, I had to come to these conclusions on my own about the God that in my life. So I'm in this messy marriage, and it's bad, and she's in AA, and we're not getting along tremendously, and we end up in counseling because I've got issues, outside issues. Now, the problem is, our book says, on wherever it is, 132 or something, it says, that God has supplied this world with fine doctors and psychologists. You be quick to take your health problems there. And I absolutely agree there. That's where I went to get my knee replaced. That's where I go with my diabetes and things of that nature. I go right to the doctor. The problem that I had is it says be quick to take your health problems there. The dangerous thing was I ended up, as it turned out for me, I tried taking my alcoholism there. And I didn't know that. And it's important to know that. In fact, I didn't even know that I was really alcoholic. I sort of was in 85, but I seem to have gotten over it now. I moved into Samaritan House and I'm married, and ain't I wonderful? And look at all this. I'm tired of telling you about it. Just look at it. You know, it's almost like, you know, we know, Craig, we know. Shut up. And so I'm going to this guy, and me and her are. I had to go to anger management classes. I volunteered. This is how I volunteer for anger management. All those people were sent there by the judge. I don't have any identification with them. I'm here on a voluntary basis. My wife said, go to anger management or I'm leaving. So I volunteered. And anyway, I'm in this counseling deal, and this guy's name is Craig, and he's a good guy. And so we've been going to him now for a long time, you know, a couple of years, and we've gotten really close, and he's seen some of the kids grow up, and we're in there regularly, and it's kind of keeping us together, and so he knows a lot about the wino and about AA and about his, you know, wino being my sponsor, and have you done the steps? You know, that's my answer. Yeah, a couple of times, you know, and have you done inventory? Yeah, and Craig is really kind of studying me to see, you know, and he's like, wow, I got a real one. And so one night he starts talking to me and Karen about, you know, he's depressed. That guy is depressed is what he tells her. And I'm thinking, boy, you're underpaid. You have no idea. He said, you know, there's medications that can help with that kind of depression. And I'm not here to pick any bones with anybody about anything. Here's my experience. This guy wants to put me on meds. And I'm real excited. I'm thinking, thank God. Oh my God, it's about, I need relief bad. I need a drink is what I need. But meds will do for now. And, you know, whatever. And then there was a part of me that went, oh no. And she seemed to support the part, get him on drugs and solve my problem. Anyway, 2 or 3 weeks go by, we can't see him. He's out of town, I'm out of town, whatever. And we come back one night, and we got the kids with us. It's a family illness. And we get the kids with us, and he's real upset. We get to his office, and Craig is real upset. And he's shuffling papers around and piddling around and doing this kind of stuff. And I'm getting nervous, you know. And he said, he looks up for just a second, and he says, Mom and Dad in there, kids over there. And it was like marching orders. And we go in his room. I sit down in my chair, and he comes into his desk, and he's shuffling stuff around. And Craig's normally a guy that's an eyeballer, you know. And he's looking down, and he's shuffling around, and he's having a hard time. And he says, he looks up and he said, I'm not going to be able to see you guys for a while. He said, you know, you guys have become more than just clients. I've become very close to you. And my head starts spinning. And I start thinking, oh my God, him and Karen have kind of hit it off. Yeah, you know, and I can't say that I don't deserve that. But, you know, that's what's going on. You know, I know it is. They're, you know, so that's what it is. He said, particularly, I've gotten close to Craig, and I thought, really? He said, I'm not going to be able to see you guys for, you know, I swear to God, I think he said 4 months. And then he asked, you know, do you want to know why? Well, yeah, I guess. He said, I'm checking into Betty Ford to get off the medicine I was going to prescribe to him. And I thought, damn it, just when I was about ready to get some help, some loser blows it. And anyway, you know, there was that part, and the other part of me went, whew, thank God. Well, as it turns out, a long story short, one thing leads to another. Her and I end up split up, and I end up face down in Alcoholics Anonymous for the very first, well, that's not true. The first time I was new, I was really in here, and I was following my sponsor's directions, and I was taking action, and I had taken a third step, and I had done the inventory, and I had done actually a fifth step with Bob, and then I stopped. I don't understand 6 and 7. You don't need to, just do them. But I don't understand them, but just do them. I don't know what you're telling me to do. My God, it's written down in the book. It says if you still cling to something you won't let go, you asked for the willingness. Well, how many times? It says here in the book, we ask until it comes. Wow, that long. And then when ready, how do I know when I'm ready? When your ass is falling off, okay, buddy? When you just can't stand it anymore and it's real this time. You know what it is? Not when I'm done. I have been done so many times. You know how many times I've been done? You know what the problem is with being done? I come undone. You know, Monday I'm done. I'm never going to do that again, Mom. I swear to God, you will never. And then Wednesday I'm doing it again, right? But I was defeated. And when I'm defeated, when it's just beating me to where I can't wring any more fun out of it, it seems to me that my character defects are like that. I wring as much fun out of them as I can possibly stand. And when I'm defeated, when ready, I say something like this. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. Well, why do I got to say good and bad? Well, leave me the good. Take the bad. The problem is with you, Craig, you don't know the true from the false. You don't know good. I know the difference between good and bad. Oh, really? Let's study the record a little bit. It was a good idea to get involved with Karen, wasn't it? No, that was a bad idea, but you thought it was good. I did think it was good, but it turned out bad. So getting broke up with Karen was like the worst thing that could ever happen to you, huh? Yeah, it was terrible. Yet it's turned out to be great. Look at you now. Well, you're right about that. You're right about that. Damn it. How did all your disasters start out, Craig? I never planned any. I swear to God, I never planned one disaster, but I had a few. They all started out the same way. Oh, shit, this is going to be great, right? This is going to be great. Wait, this is going to be so much fun. And Friday night, you leave the house, and it's going to be fun. Monday morning, when you're standing in front of the judge in the arraignment, that was a shitty weekend. Really, what happened? What happened? It was going to be great, right? So I don't know the true from the false, the good and the bad. So let God have all of me, good and bad. I pray, that you now remove every single defective character that stands in the way. Logically, it would be of me being happy. Nope, that's not it. Of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Well, wait a minute. Now that I'm defeated and I'm beaten down, you always want a big fat guy with a truck to move your furniture. You know what I mean? But when it's somebody to take your daughter to the prom, no, not him. Let's get this guy. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's just what I thought. You know what? You're taking advantage of me. But I didn't say that. I'm too nice for that kind of thing. I just thought it at him. And so relieve me of the bondage of self. When it talks about it, that in that third step prayer, that is so magnificent. What binds me to myself anyway? I don't even know what that means. What you think of me? My house? Oh, the last couple of years, my house has bound me to myself, right? I'm at the point, I just, okay, whatever. You can have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character that stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here, to do your bidding. I got to be right here, right now. Right here, right now. You know when the best time to have a relationship with God is? Right now. You know where? Right here. And I always avoided the here and the now. I always tried to avoid the here and the now. So I get out of this marriage and this mess, and I end up face down in Alcoholics Anonymous. And one night I'm at a book study. Damn it, I better look at my watch just to give you hope. One night I'm in a book study, and I'm listening to these guys. It's like half of the meeting is listening to these guys facilitate the meeting, and then they take a break for everybody to have a smoke, and then the second half they come back and 12 or so people get to share. And I'm listening to these two guys, and they're sort of arguing, kind of, in the meeting. And one of them, they had read that thing in the book in We Agnostics that says, if when you honestly want to, you find you can't quit entirely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you are probably alcoholic, probably. If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. And I'm listening to him, and the one guy is saying, Bob is saying, Well, it's got to be both of those things. He's saying that shouldn't be or, it should be and. You got to have both of those things. And Stan is saying, no. No, if you have one or the other, either one of those things or both, you're probably alcoholic. I became alcoholic that night because in my delusional thought process, I never really honestly wanted to quit, so that doesn't exactly apply to me, right? I never really honestly wanted to quit. I wanted to quit getting in trouble. I wanted to quit having problems. I wanted to quit having to listen to you, but I don't really want to quit. So that just doesn't apply. I can close my mind. But that one, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, and there was just this whole flood of even childhood memories come back on me and people saying things like, oh, you didn't bring him again, did you? Damn it, you need to learn to maintain and you got to control it and you drink like we're going to run out, and all those kind of things come flooding back. And that night, I joined Alcoholics Anonymous, and I didn't even know it, because what I realized that night is, I'll be damned, I got alcoholism. I thought there was no way possible for me to have, I'm too Mormon to have, Mormons don't have alcoholism. That's just things I think I know. Nobody ever told me that, but I figured it out. And on and on and on. And I started following directions, and I got a sponsor, and he said, you need to do a third step. And that night, he said, we can do it in the other room. I said, no, it says do it with somebody, you don't want to do it with somebody who will misunderstand. And I said, all these folks here have done them. I got on my knees in his living room and out loud did the third step with other people standing there. And I felt like I meant it. And I thought that third step was just, and he said, you know what this means, don't you? And I said, yeah, I know what it means. He said, get started on that inventory. Like, can we rest a little bit? This has been tedious to this. No, we'll just do it now. And make an appointment with me, and he was going to California, and I did, and we do this inventory, and I started cleaning up the mess I'd made over I'm 13 or 14 years not drinking around I'm in AA. You know what I'm saying? I'm one of those people I haven't drank, and I come to a lot of meetings, but my life was a mess. I remember the wino, God loved that man, used to tell me, hey, you know what, you need to get some guys. You need to get some guys that you sponsor. And one day in frustration, I turned to him down at the Thai Club in the parking lot. I said, what do you want me to do, wino? Tackle somebody after the meeting? Nobody comes near me. Why would you? I didn't want what I have. I didn't want it. I was dying from it, and I knew that. And the delusion that I had was that I was in the middle of AA, because I was in meetings all the time, and I'm on these committees, and I got all this stuff going on. And the reality was I wasn't even in AA. I was just in a rounder. I was just in a rounder like Paul talked about last night. I'm glad to report to you tonight that Craig's life has changed tremendously because of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I got a life today that I did not know was available to me. I get to do things today. I don't have money, and I'm not rich and famous and all that. I mean, I work hard like all of you do. And I worry about money and stuff, not so much as I used to, because it's like, oh, well, come get it. Come get it. If it's that important to you. You know what, I will tell you this, and then we'll quit. We're like, minutes away, seconds away from being done here. I got a phone call yesterday over here in this hotel room from a gal in Vegas who's in real estate, and I'm in real estate, and she called and she was screaming at me. And she was, you no good, you solicit you're in the backyard, you're drinking beer, you're just, oh my God, she just went off. Don't you ever contact my client again. I'm going to take you up on charges, and I'm going to report you to the division, and on and on and on. And I just told her, I said, Denise, if I have stepped over the line, I absolutely tell you to, I don't know what my future holds and what I'm supposed to be doing. So if I lose my license, that's just more direction I get in my life. I mean, go ahead. Whatever. I'm not guilty. And she's just frantic, and she's just screaming at me. And I said, I'm going to tell you this. I didn't call your client. Your client's neighbor called your client and came into the backyard wondering what we were doing, wanting to know what I'm doing there. And I gave her my card, and I presented it, and I'm a realtor. We don't look like a realtor. And I thought, you don't look like a bitch, but, Anyway, I didn't say nothing. I just said, I realize that. We've been out to the dump and hauling stuff off of another house and whatnot. And I get on the phone with this little gal, Denise, with Monica. and strike up a nice conversation. And I talk to Monica a lot, and she expresses dissatisfaction with her current situation and whatnot. And I said, well, if you're that dissatisfied with it and you want to make a change, just, you keep my name and number. It's no big deal, right? And so I tell Denise, oh, she's just livid. So she slams the phone down. I said, you know what, go to the division. Well, I'm going tomorrow. It's Saturday, they're closed. You better be there Monday morning. And, she was pissed. And I'll tell you, it would have ruined my weekend had that ended like that. She called me back a little while later. I was on the phone with a lender, and she called me back, and she said, listen, I didn't mean to scream and yell at you like I did. And I said, I understand. She said, I didn't realize you're the one that made the offer on the house. She said that the client told me that you were in her backyard drinking beer. I said, I actually was drinking a Red Bull. She said, why were you sitting at the pool? I said, well, that's where my client and I were doing business until your client's neighbor interrupted us. She said, I didn't think it was cool of you to solicit my client. I said, I'll bet you didn't. I said, the truth is, Denise, I didn't solicit your client. Your client pretty much offered the business to me because she said she was dissatisfied with you. Perhaps you and her could work on your relationship a little bit. And I wasn't being an ass about it. The restraint of pen and tongue paid off huge because I didn't get conversations like that can ruin your weekend. Greg knows what I'm talking about. They can ruin your weekend. Bad. I'm sure there's other people here who know what I'm talking about, but I know he does because we had this conversation earlier. Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me to do things that I did not know were possible for me. A friend of mine sent me an email, Brandon Hawkinson down in Vegas, not an AA guy. But he says, Dear Craig, I love this. He says, it's life explained. A boat docked in a Mexican village, in a tiny Mexican village. An American tourist complimented the Mexican fisherman on the quality of his fish and asked him how long it took him to catch him. Not very long, the little fisherman replied. Well, the tourist said, why didn't you stay out and catch more fish? The little Mexican explained that his small catch was sufficient to meet his needs and those of his family. The American asked, but what do you do with the rest of your time? He says, well, I sleep late, fish a little, play with my children, take a siesta with my wife, and in the evenings, I go into the village and see my friends. We have a few drinks. I play the guitar and sing some songs. I have a very full life, he says. The American replied, oh man, I got an MBA from Harvard, and I can help you, pal. I can really help you. He says, you should start by, fishing longer every day. Then you can sell the extra fish you catch, and with the extra money, you can buy a bigger boat. And the little Mexican said, and after that? He said, well, after that, with the extra money, a larger boat will bring in, you can buy a second one and a third one and on until you have an entire fleet of trawlers. Instead of selling your fish to a middleman, you can then negotiate directly with the processing plants and maybe even open your own plant. Wouldn't that be something? He said, you can then leave this little village and move to Mexico City, Los Angeles, New York, something like that. And he said, from there, you can direct your huge new enterprise. The little Mexican asked him, well, how long is that going to take? 20, maybe 25 years. And he said, and after that, sir, what will I do? He said, well, afterwards, my friend, he said, that's when it gets really interesting. He said, when your business gets really big, you can start buying and selling stocks and make millions. The little Mexican said, millions? Really? And after that, what do I do? The American said, after that, you'll be able to retire. He said, live in a tiny village near the coast, sleep late, play with your wife, children, catch a few fish, take a siesta. Yeah, you get the drift. Here's the deal. John Ackerland said one time, you're standing here looking for your ship to come in, wondering when your ship's going to come in, Craig? Yes, John. He said, this is it. This is it. Right here, right now. This is when we're living. This is where God is in my experience, right here, right now. You feel that Spirit moving in and connecting. I felt it so much last night. I feel it now. I felt it so much last night when Paul was talking. It was refreshing to hear a solid AA talk. A solid AA talk. I like that. You know, you guys, thank you so much for inviting me here. The hospitality has been outstanding. I hope that you continue this kind of thing. Being enthusiastic about Alcoholics Anonymous is unbelievable. I mean, to go to AA and go, oh, shit, I got to go to the meeting tonight. God, I hope they don't call on that bitch or that old dude. I'm tired of listening to him. I don't care about your dog. Damn it. You know, to go with that kind of an attitude is tough. Trust me. But to go with the attitude, oh, damn it. You know, this is great. I get to see my friends. I got one of my little buddies in Vegas is telling me how come I'm not a good home group member. But I am. It's just not your home group I'm a member of. It's mine. And, you know, yeah, you're undisciplined and you're uncommitted. Well, that's not true. I just seem to have a whole lot of friends. My wife and kids like having me around. They depend on me. They know they can count on me. My employers know they can count on me. My clients know they can count on me. They can absolutely count on me. I'm not going to put them in a position of harm. They know that. I can look them dead in the eye. My boss can look me dead in the eye and ask me any question that he likes. You better be ready for the answer. But you can ask me any question you like. And any of you can do the same. It's nice to be able to go through life and have that eye to eye. And we learn that early in this process as we discover we can look, that we can face life successfully and that we can look the world in the eye. And we're not always dragging ourselves. I was looking down today as I was coming over here because the sun was in my eyes and I'm like, damn it, I hate looking down. So I'm walking like this, you know, kind of like an idiot, but whatever, you know, I saluting whatever. And another thing I would like to mention, thank God for the men and women that have served this country and that are serving this country. Thank God you make this. I see those boys and girls at the airport, and I always make it a point when I see the military in the airports and stuff to walk up and say, thank you. Thank you. I got a great place to live because of people like you. And I got a great life. I have an incredible life because of people like you. Thanks.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with, and it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs, long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app, to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.